Hi, Homeschoolific family. It's Diana here with Homeschoolific, and today I thought I would do the video that I have been saying I wanted to do for a while, and that is to tell you how I became a homeschooler. And I kind of was thinking to have my husband in this one, but I didn't coordinate well enough, so here we go. Um, so you might have pieced this together from videos we've had in the past, but basically, when my first and second and third son, so I had four kids by this point, or maybe I was pregnant. Might have been pregnant with my fourth one at this point, and we lived in Las Vegas. And my sons always did really good in school, and we moved to this area in Las Vegas to make sure that they had good schools. We had our oldest one at first in private school, but as our kids got older and we got poorer, we realized that private school could not happen for probably not one and definitely not two. Just in time context, our second son was born in 2000. And so this was shortly after, I mean, it wasn't shortly after, but 9/11 had happened, caused a whole ripple in our lives. As many other people, kind of like what you see with COVID, not quite to the severity, but what was happening with jobs, companies were shutting down and stuff like that because, there was a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. And many of you viewers are probably not old enough to know to remember this, but I am. So anyway, so it caused a lot of shifts in our lives, a lot of changes. I have, up until my fourth son, I have been a working mom the whole time. I've always worked. I've only taken off to have children or if I was pregnant and had to take off. Outside of that, I've worked the whole time. And so we had gone to this school, never had any problems with our kids in school or anything like that before. And while it was great for my third son, who was in kindergarten, he loved his teacher. And then my oldest son, he had his teacher, Mrs. Noah, and he loved Mrs. Noah. She was great teacher. My second son, he was really struggling with his teacher, who seemed to be very concerned with her push-up bras and not my kid's education. That's okay. I had a different mindset back then. Still don't really care for her, but whatever. She just had it out for my son, and he is dyslexic. We figured he might have been, but it wasn't severe. And again, I didn't even know, not again, but I did not know there was levels. But I knew that because I come from a whole line of people who are dyslexic. My husband's dyslexic. I figured we'd be fine. Just talk to the school about it, because when we were kids, me and my siblings in California, that's what my parents did. They talked to the school, and the school was able to help them get to someone that would help my brother, who is profoundly dyslexic. And so that's what they did. That's what my parents did. And we drove. We didn't live in LA, but we drove to LA County once or twice a week to get tutoring for my brother. So I thought that's what was going to happen. But in Clark County School District, there were no dyslexic programs. They put the kids in special ed. And so that's what she wanted to do. Nobody knew for sure if he was dyslexic or not. He had never been officially diagnosed. And at the time, my husband and I were not even interested in diagnosing him. I just knew enough to say, oh, I see what this is. Not a big deal. Dyslexic kids are smart kids. They learn just fine. Just learn differently. She gave me a lot of pushback. Wanted to put him, gave him an IEP and things like that. And he was in the second grade of this. Yeah, he was third grade. Sorry. He was third grade. Ironically, when dyslexic kids have problems, you're going to see it in the second or third grade. And this is the funny part about it. But we never saw it in second. I saw it, but I talked to his teacher about it in second grade. She said, no, it's normal, but I saw it. Anyway, I digress. So his teacher, the whole school year, she just gave him a hard time, lots of parent-teacher meetings. Ultimately, she gave up on him and just started sending him home with very, very simple work, very remedial, very like kindergarten, preschool work, so that she could just kind of get him through. It was so heartbreaking, and he was such a flourishing, happy child. I mean, he's just a sweet kid. You know, he'll give you a little lip, but that's my boy. That's how he is. And he give you a little lip, but you know, it's just, you know, it's his way. And she just didn't like him. Really, she just didn't like him. And I remember feeling that I failed him and I didn't know what to do. And we were just, I was at my wit's end. I was so tired, and I saw what it did to my child. You know, he was such a confident little boy, just naturally, just how he was. He was this kid. He was so confident. He was big and tall in his mind that even at 2 years old, he would duck under big slides just because he thought he was so big. You know, he's a very confident boy. And she tore that out of my child, you know, and that was really hard to watch. So my husband says, well, you know, my business partner, his family homeschools, and that was his business partner at the time. And he says he homeschools, and I was like, people homeschool? People don't homeschool? Weirdos homeschool. And he's like, no, they're a homeschool family, and it's working for them. And you know, I really dismissed it because I said, Michael, what am I going to do with these kids all day homeschooling them? Like, that was not anything that I had ever, like, I've never even considered it slightly. I didn't even know people did that besides weird cult people that I had seen. I didn't know anybody homeschooled. And so he set a time for us to meet, and then we talked about it, and they told me about virtual schooling, and I was desperate. So I did it. We set it up. My dad actually built a big old desk for the boys, and we had dividers. And so at this time, my fourth son was definitely born. So I think he was already born when we made this decision, because he was 1.5 years when I came home from work, and when I stopped working, and we were homeschooling at this point. So I was not working, homeschooling. We did virtual school through the state, and I hated it like with a passion. I loved being able to help my boy. Oh my gosh, it was so different. It was like night or day. But then my third son, you know, the school program was sending home these books that he wasn't ready for, because you know he was schooled in Clark County, guys, and let's call a spade. And so he just wasn't ready for some of the stuff that they were giving him. And so it really, and he has a fragile, not anymore, but he had a very fragile ego. So it was very hard on him. And so he actually struggled. I'll get to him in a minute. However, my second son, the one that we took out, you know, the reason why we started the homeschool journey, he thrived. He really thrived on the one-on-one. And the thing about it is, and this was what always got me with this teacher, he always wanted to learn. He was always willing to do the work. And he always knew he had to work harder than other people. And he was always okay with that. Always okay with that. Never struggled with that boy working for school. Always a breeze. He just needed the one-on-one help. So that's what that's what he did. And he thrived. You know, we left the virtual schooling because it was overwhelming for me. First of all, nobody told me that they were not required to do all of the work, that some of the work was extra. But the other thing is that I was like, I had to do it the way they told me to do it. I do think it was good for me for the first year because I am not naturally organized. And so I had to learn that skill, and that did provide me with those skills, but it was really hard up front to get to understand how to do this. Anyway, so he's thriving. My oldest, he's mad. He's social butterfly. So we go ahead and we put him into middle school, which literally made me almost vomit because I always had anticipation in about my kids going to middle school. That was when we moved to Las Vegas. When I was a kid, was middle school. And while I've always been a child that was picked on, Las Vegas was at a level that I just wasn't prepared for it. It almost broke me as a person, you know. I actually think I'm strong as a person because of it, But at that age, and you got to remember, I was always younger in school. So I was 13 in high school and 12 in the 8th grade. So it was one of those things that was just really hard to deal with. So I was just so nervous about him going to middle school. And then he went to middle school and he had a hard time. He lasted 2 or 3 months, and then we pulled him out and we just homeschooled him. So that was a hard thing. Meanwhile, my third son, now he is struggling because he's reading these books that he really wasn't prepared for. He was reading, they had him reading by the time he got out of kindergarten. That was what the teacher said was the goal, and that's what they obtained. But the charter school we were part of, they had higher expectations and they moved faster, and my baby just wasn't ready. So as a result, he starts struggling with school, and he's also very social. He wanted to go back to school. So it's January of that school year. I mean, this has just been crazy, guys. And he's asking me if he go to pub school. Let me go to pub school. Let me go to pub school. Fine. Okay. So we go, and then we take him out of the charter school, enroll him in the public school. He cries every day for 10 days straight. Every day, going to school, cries. So finally, I can't handle it anymore. And our friends, the ones that encouraged us about homeschooling, encouraged us to not force him to keep going to public school if it's not working for him, because obviously there's something wrong, because he didn't struggle with it before. And so we took him back out and kept going in the virtual school for that school year. They were fortunately willing to let us back in. I have to say the teacher was amazing. She was an advocate for me. She was the reason why I was able to stick it through. Nothing wrong with the school district. I mean, the school, the virtual school itself. It just didn't work for me and what I wanted out of homeschooling. So anyways, that is how I got started with homeschooling. It was just because my son had need. And then what I noticed was I was able to meet all my kids' needs from there. Now, we stopped virtual schooling that following year. It was the only way I was going to stick with it. I went to a mom's night out, and they were so gracious to teach me how to, homeschool and help me learn all the different options I had. And so I did a lot of research that summer, and then decided what homeschooling I was going to do and chose the path for us. And I was able to meet each one of my kids' needs. We found homeschool groups for my very social butterflies, and I was a part of, actually at the time, up to 6 different homeschool groups, because each one of my kids kind of had a different need, and each group kind of fit that, until I was allowed the privilege of running a homeschool group myself. And then I was able to help cater to all the age groups, so that there wasn't a need for me to constantly go to other groups all the time. And so while we would do things with other homeschool groups because they just did some of those things better than what I could do, or what, not me, it was never me, the team that we had could do, it's just for whatever reason, most of the things we could do were at our homeschool group. And so that worked out really well, and that was nice. Here, now that I'm in Texas, I have seen the need again for multiple homeschool groups, but I lack the energy. Anyways, so yeah, guys, that's how I ended up homeschooling. Is not why I keep homeschooling, not completely anyway. It is a big part of it. We homeschool for multiple reasons. We homeschool for our values. We homeschool for the flexibility. Dude, the flexibility, seriously? Because we did do one of these like hybrid schools for my second son. He fired me as his teacher and everything. And so, because I'm not rigid, or I wasn't rigid enough, or his words, not mine. Or no, not rigid. What did he say? I was not disciplined enough. That's what his words. I was not disciplined enough for him, so he fired me as his teacher. So anyways, he fired me as his teacher, and we enrolled him into this like hybrid school. He only had to be there 1 day a week, and we were all dying. It ruined all of our plans. It was like this whole thing. We were just like, oh my gosh, we can't be on somebody else's time, which is funny because we've always had sports and stuff like that. I think it was like a mindset. I don't know. But yeah, he didn't hate it, but he didn't love it. So I was like, if you don't love it, can we not do it again? So after the school year was over, we didn't do it again. That's when I took him over to Abeka, and he just did Abeka. Abeka was, discipline enough for him. And so anyway, yeah, so we don't still homeschool solely for that reason. We live in Texas. School districts are better here, but we have no interest, unless God tells us otherwise, we have no interest of putting our kids back into the public school district. I always make sure I'm prepared if that's where God leads us, or something, God forbid, something happens to me and my husband has to. It would be very hard for him to do all that he has to do and homeschool our children. He would have to either pay somebody to do it or put them in public school. That would just be maybe private school, but those would be the options. It would not be homeschooling. So I always prepare for that kind of stuff. I always want to make sure that they're up to a certain level for that reason, because I just don't know what the future holds. And that's kind of how I am. I'm a planner, and making sure that I have planned for as many obstacles as possible is important to me. So that's what I do, Anyways, so, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please put it down in the comment section below. Tell me why you start homeschooling. If you're not homeschooling, tell me why you're thinking about homeschooling. If you need help on your homeschooling journey and trying to decide how, when, or what on homeschooling, we've got a link down below that will help you get a guide to homeschooling. We also have a free list to use, absolutely free to you, of 75 essential resources that you need as a homeschooler. So go ahead and click that link down below in the description box. And as always, we can't wait to see you again. We're so happy that you're here. I will be doing a review on teaching textbooks. That will be my next video coming out, and so it will be coming out at the mid part of this month in January. So please look forward to it, and we are just excited to have you here. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.